Hi, welcome back to my channel. This month I have not read quite as much. I have in volume but not in number of books because the book that I started this month reading was House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas, the last of the Crescent City books, and it is a monster. It's over 800 pages, which understandably takes a while when you do other things besides read all day every day, even though that's what we all want to do. If you don't know anything about Crescent City, it is about a girl, Bryce, who gets thrown into an investigation in book 1 and has to partner with some non-human species and their magical powers and things to solve a mystery. Lots of things happen in books 1 and 2. In book 3, it is like everything coming to a head. Everything they've worked for the first 2 books is all coming together, all drawing to a close. I honestly don't know how there could be another book after this. If you've read it, you know. I feel like everything wrapped up perfectly. I don't know where we could go from here. It was really well written. I feel like this series is not as well known as ACOTAR or Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas because it's so large and long and there's a lot of lore to get into, and it's not quite the same pacing as her other series. But I really like heavy lore fantasy, and I think it's really fun to really get into the weeds of the world and learn the magic system. This has a ton of characters throughout the entire series that you get to know. You see multiple POVs, it switches back and forth, there's not multiple timelines, like it's all at the same time, but multiple storylines in the same timeline happening all at the same time. So there's a lot of bouncing back and forth, but it's balanced so well and you're easily able to keep track of everything that's going on, which is something that I think Sarah J. Maas masters really well, is being able to articulate so many different things all in the same story and make it make sense. I didn't fall in love with the characters in this series as much as I did for Throne of Glass or ACOTAR. It wasn't as strong of a found family element as I love from the other books, but I still had a really good time reading it. I think a lot of the magical elements here are really creative, and one thing I really appreciated in this series was that Bryce actually used her friends for help and talked through things with them, and they worked together, and it wasn't just her being a superhero doing it all by herself. And characters also messed up and had opportunities to correct their mistakes or own up to what they did wrong, and it made them feel a lot less invincible than in some of the other books where our main characters just can do no wrong and there's no punishments for their actions. So I had a really fun time reading it. I love fantasy. I love fairies and complicated worlds and magic systems and all the things. So I thought it was really great. I am giving it a 5 stars, and I'm so excited for the next Sarah J. Maas books that come out later. I would encourage people who haven't read Crescent City to read them before you read the next ACOTAR books that come out, because these do set up her upcoming releases very well, and I can see the direction that they're going to go in. I could be wrong, but based on info that we got at the end of Flame and Shadow, it kind of alludes to a potential storyline for the next ACOTAR books. I guess we'll find out together. I know we're all very excited. The next book I read this month is The Life-Changing Art of Self-Brain Surgery by Dr. Lee Warren. This book I actually listened to on audiobook probably 90%, but I loved having the physical copy because I was able to go back and annotate and highlight and mark things that I personally want to go back and look at again. This is a nonfiction book about how to change your thought patterns and take control of your brain and having power over your thoughts and what you're thinking about and how you interpret things and getting through hardship and all those things. I was surprised by how much I liked this book. I think I gave it a 4 stars because it was quite long in some areas where I feel like it could have been shortened. There was a ton of examples, a ton of illustrations and applicable parts of this, but it was formed like a very well-rounded argument by someone who has a science logic brain, which I really liked, and I could see how it would be appealing to people who think like that and are good at creating arguments or would question some of the things that are said. Because it's so well-rounded, because it's so well argued, there's little room to go against what he's saying, and he makes a really good argument for people who may be struggling and not wanting to change or looking for a way to change but kind of doubt how to do so or doubt advice of people telling them how to do so. I don't know if that makes sense, but I appreciated his arguments. They were just a little long, and I think it would maybe create a barrier to information for people who want to know these things but aren't willing to read a book that's over 200 pages. Now, one of the things I really love about this book is that there are actually applicable examples and steps of how to do what he's talking about. I feel like a ton of self-help books just give you an idea and you're just supposed to take it and run with it or figure out how to use it in your own life. But he actually gives concrete examples of how to use it in a broad sense, but also in hyper-specific scenarios based on common mental health struggles or problems that people may be going through, like grief or anxiety or depression. I'll show you an example he has here. This one is for self-doubt, and so he'll give you like when you would use it, what it's for, the neuroscience behind what he's talking about, and then like a step-by-step guide of things to actually do. Obviously, I tagged this book a ton, so there was so many good quotes and tidbits and ideas and things that I want to carry through my life as I kind of try to adopt some of the things he's talking about and take control over my own thoughts. I would highly recommend to anyone who's very logic-minded and who's looking for a way to maybe change how they think about things, or if you struggle with anxiety or depression or things like that, like this is a really good, spiritually sound advice. And even if you aren't a Christian, he explains things very well for someone to apply it in a secular sense as well. The next book I read this month is Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This is the first book in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. It's kind of an interconnected romance world that she has. There's 4 books. I actually read the 4th one before, but haven't read any of the other 3 until this. This is a Western romance, as is obvious by the title, about a girl who returns to her hometown after she has a really bad fall off of her horse and is struggling to get back on a horse and ride again. The male love interest is her brother's best friend, who she's always kind of hated. I really wanted to like this book more than I did. It had a lot of good things like at its core, but everything felt not rushed. It just, we didn't get deep enough with the characters to really connect with them, even though they had very deep and serious things that they were going through. We just didn't connect with them on that level. I feel like our main character, Luke, didn't really have much of a personality beyond liking Emmy. Every time he went to his POV, it was what he was thinking about her and how he was attracted to her and how he couldn't be attracted to her because it's his best friend's little sister. From her, we got a little bit more of a story, like point of view. There just wasn't a ton of substance to this book. So very early on, I adjusted my expectations, and because of that, I had a fun time reading it. It was a very quick read. I think I read it in one night. Very easy for summer, just low expectations in terms of plot, and just have fun if you're gonna read it. My next book this month is Phoebe Berman is Gonna Lose It by Brooke Averick. I have listened to Brooke and Connor make a podcast for years, so having her book now, her first book, is super exciting. I had pre-ordered it when it was announced in like October or something, and I didn't know the paperback was large print, which is kind of weird to look at. Like the words are massive, the book itself is very big. So I think I might exchange it for the hardback because the hardback is actually cheaper right now on Amazon, and it feels weird holding this giant paperback. Regardless, I'm gonna start reading it right away, and then hopefully when I get the regular hardback in, it'll be a little easier to read than this very large paperback book. In this book, we have Phoebe, who creates a checklist to convert her non-existent dating life into her first successful relationship. Okay, I finished Phoebe, and I literally could not put it down once I started reading. I could not stop. This book, I am so surprised at how much I enjoyed it, especially as someone's debut novel. Like, it was funny, it was enjoyable, it was quirky, it was weird. The way different emotions were communicated in this book were so tangible. At times, I physically cringed from some of the awkwardness that happened in that Phoebe's trying to overcome. I laughed, like the characters were funny. I wasn't expecting that. There is like a serious nature to it in some of the things that they're dealing with, but it is at the same time, it's so unserious. And I just relate to Phoebe so much and how she like hyperfixates on stuff and is obsessed with things, and like it's just portrayed anxiety and OCD so well in this book that like I did not expect it to come across this well and be so relatable. I was very wrapped up in the different romance options that Phoebe had. Everything worked out exactly the way it needed to. Could not have thought of a better way for this book to go. I'm so happy with how everything came together, wrapped up. I also read this as part of Brooke Averick's book club on Fable, which having her like make comments on some of the chapters and getting to go and read what other people were saying and see how we all collectively had the same reactions to things that happened in this book was so fun. I do that with like my friends and my book clubs, but having it with collectively a group of people on the internet it's just fun. I really loved this non-traditional romance more than I thought I would, because I really like the escapism that is in romance and that I get to be whisked away into a fairy tale story. But having this one with like real problems and like not a perfect protagonist and things that go awry, it was a lot more relatable than I was expecting and a lot more enjoyable. Like normally I read to escape, and this was very much a different take on that, a different perspective on that, and one I enjoyed a lot. Safe to say this got a 5-star read for me. I could definitely foresee myself rereading this book. Well, those are all the books I read this month. Honestly, it ended up being more than I thought it would, because I had started with the Crescent City book. I thought I was not gonna have time to read like anything else. Since Phoebe and Done and Dusted were very quick for me, I ended up still getting through quite a few books. I hope you had a great reading month as well, and if you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.